All right, here for another Sunday topic. I guess it's pretty much been. We started off last week with our series is about body parts, competition style body parts, and
That's a muscle
uh,
group. Yep.
yep. And so last week we did shoulders, and we're gonna start back today. So Donnie's here again. How you doing tonight, Donnie?
Not bad, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, doing good. It's Sunday, so gonna go to bed in a little while and wake up and go to work tomorrow.
Yep. I got legs tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, for us, it's the same thing every day. There's nothing really
Yeah,
changes.
legs
So
tomorrow.
yeah. So back is I would have to say, at first I thought shoulders was my favorite body part, but I really think back is my favorite body parts
The
to
train.
train. Yeah. You can handle more load on it, just I'm stronger with it and I got good genetics for it. Same thing with my shoulders, but for me, I feel like back, that's a tear it up day, kind of like legs, you just anyway, that's what is your favorite body part to train?
Well, for mine, it's check because everything is just easier to set up. It's all hard. You
Yeah,
know what I
sure.
mean?
Sure.
But yeah, but back is definitely the a very, very, very important muscle group, especially from a strategic standpoint.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to, that was basically the first question I was going to ask you too. I kind of wanted to talk about the importance of a back for a competition bodybuilder and how it ties into your physique on stage, and go from there. That's kind of what I wanted to elaborate on, I think, today.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. Just that first part. I mean, it's come to the point now to where it's almost cliched where they say contest or one from the back. All right.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where it's clear, but there is a lot of truth to that. There really is. We'll go into why that is a little bit later on, but just explain what it is. I mean, so they're not all of the Olympias were like just notorious for having great backs, but the real great ones, like Arnold and Lee Haney and Ronnie Coleman and Phil Heath, Jay Cutler, these guys, it was one of their trademarks, to have a really devastating back and stuff, So there's a lot of importance to it.
Well, and as far as I mean, even from front shots, your front double bite, well, pretty much all the front shots, you still got back in there. You got your lats coming out. It's your back is pretty much shown on, well, every pose really, except minus side poses. I mean, it's there.
No, not even there too, and I'll go into that a little bit and stuff, but there's yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk about myself a little bit, but yeah, it's for, as I'd say, I think I got turned on with it from Robbie Robinson. Actually, I think he's the one that really got me into back training, but Arnold was the first one to plant the seeds in my head and stuff. You get your Weeder magazines and stuff, and they go articles, and he would always have an article on back training, and I learned from a very early age that for some, that's kind of important, because I get these people that I'm really looking up to, and they stress a lot of things, but they stress back a little bit more than anything else and stuff,
Yeah, you're right.
And and they had very, very, very good backs, but you're right, from when you think of back, and like I said before, you got that classic structure, that classic human frame, which is wide shoulders, tapered torso, and then we got the well-developed legs, the little sweeping quads and stuff. Well, when you're talking about that taper, and you used to hear about it, even in fashion, you got that taper, you want that taper in the torso. All they're talking about is lats. That's pretty much it. And so, and that's back training. Now there's two approaches you have to take to back training. It's the width and it's the thickness. Those are the two things. And one of the things about back is it with the width, it brings out the aesthetics of a physique. Like you said, side pose. But what about that 3/4 back?
Yeah.
Remember that 3/4 back pose? Okay,
Yeah, you're right.
after you cannot do that pose if you don't have a good you don't have a good set of lats.
No,
You
you
just
can't.
can't do that pose.
Yeah, yeah.
You cannot do that three-quarter back pose. A lot of people, yeah, a lot of people think that, well, it's great if you got great arms and stuff. Yeah, you got to have great arms to have a great three-quarter back double arm back bicep too. But without that taper, it's I wouldn't waste my time with it. You
It
know.
makes it a complete package. I mean,
Oh,
it does.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So with back, you're gonna connote aesthetics, from because of the width and everything, and because you can do poses like that because of the width. And then, with that back double on bicep, it's kind of a hybrid. I guess it just depends. If you got one of those thick grainy backs, it's going to connote a lot of power. I consider the back double arm bicep. I consider it the most muscular of the back.
I think you're right
It's
about that.
equivalent to
Yeah,
the most muscular pose in the
yeah,
front.
yeah.
The
Because the
back
back lat
double
spread is just all back, but the back double bi. I mean, you got your shoulders
in
in there. You got
detail.
your biceps, your triceps. Everything's there.
Yeah, it's equivalent. It's equivalent to the most muscular of the front, but it's a little bit more aesthetic because you still want to bring out the lats in it. I mean, and show both power and thickness at the same time. That's one of those few poses where you can actually connote. I mean, power and aesthetics at the same time. If you got that detail, that grainy look, but at the same time you got those lats being flared and stuff. And it's tapered down to a small waist. You can't beat that, dude.
No, no.
You can't beat that.
It looks cool. I mean, now when I first started lifting weights, that's what I noticed, and that's what I wanted. I wanted that V. I don't even know if I knew it was called a V taper then, but
Yeah, yeah,
I just wanted that that giant back.
yeah. That was, and that wasn't even bodybuilders that even came up with that term. Those are fashion designers and stuff. These are people outside of that, and they're the ones that are talking about the taper. So
Oh,
that's why I say it's an inherent. It's just an inherent attraction to the human frame.
okay,
Everybody knows it. When they
yeah.
see it. And so yeah, and so that's a pivotal part of it. And that's why it's so important, especially from the front and from the back.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it brings out that power with those back double arm biceps. I mean, if you've got a really good back, you're going to do some damage in that lineup and stuff, provided that all the other muscle groups are pretty close
Yeah,
to the development of that back and stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. Well, I mean, you've always told me backs shows are won from the back, and I haven't just heard that from you. That's an ongoing thing that you hear. I mean, it's just the way it is. Uh,
Now, yeah, one of the things that makes it is back development is probably one of the last things to come in on a lot of physiques.
okay,
It really is. First of all, it's just to train it. Back and legs are the two hardest muscle groups to train.
sure, yeah,
And they're close. They're pretty close. I mean, you gotta have your game face on for all of them, but especially for legs and back.
yeah.
Those are two. And how some folks, and I can see it because I used to do it years and years and years ago. But I just can't see myself wanting to train anything else other than your back. I'll
Yeah,
do my auxiliaries, but I'm not going to do something like back and then biceps.
yeah.
I mean, I probably could,
Oh,
but
that's interesting. You're
prefer not
saying that.
to.
Okay,
I
okay.
prefer not to. I mean, if you put everything into a back day and stuff, at the end of it, you're done. You're done. You're not
So,
gonna.
you're kind of a firm believer of just doing a body part a day.
I,
Period.
I like to give each muscle group my undivided attention.
I like that. Okay.
you
All
know,
right. All
and then
right.
just move on to the next one. Yeah, do I have some auxiliary lefts? Yeah, oh, of course, I got that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I give each muscle group my undivided attention.
But yeah, I mean, you're right, and you can annihilate them that way and leave
Mm-hmm.
nothing on the table. Uh, yeah, I mean, you got the volume, you got the weight, you got everything you need for growth right there.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me want to go back to doing 5 days again.
Yeah, and right now what you do, it's great what you're doing right now and stuff, but yeah, and we're still hitting it pretty good.
Yeah. Oh
Of
yeah.
course, we have to change our loads a little bit because the volume of exercises has changed. So, and I noticed
Yes.
I've had to kind of mess with the numbers a little bit and stuff,
You
to
have.
make
Yeah.
it work. And
Yeah.
then when we go back to training one muscle group per day, and that volume's going to go up, and then I got to change those loads again a little bit,
I
just
see.
as time goes on and stuff.
Yeah, because 3 or 4 exercises is a lot different than 8 exercises in.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see, especially with me. So
So like I said, it's there's two things that really make back training really really challenging and stuff. And like I said, the first one is, I guess, it's one of the last things to develop. I see a lot of young guys and gals and stuff, and they got great physiques in their but if you notice, they don't have the lats yet. You know what I mean? They got a great back, they got the thickness, but they just don't have those lats. Like say they've been training for like maybe like a year and a half, maybe 2 years and stuff. There's some people they train as long as like 3 to 4 years before their lats really, really, really start developing pretty good and stuff. I've seen that. That's one of the first challenges. It's just one of the last things to develop. The second thing is, especially for men, though, it's more so for men than women. We tend to hold the majority of our fat in our backs.
that's one of my next
Okay,
questions.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, and so this is one of the reasons why, as it just answering, I've answered the question a little bit ahead of time. Is it one of the last things to come in? Why is it so hard to come in for some folks? And that's what it is. It's primarily for men. Women, they don't really hold a lot of fat in their backs.
Mhm.
Actually they take this whole more fat in the back of in their triceps than they do in their backs. You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
for us, it gets to the point to where all we need to do the last couple of weeks, 4 weeks, we don't have to pinch anything else on you, but just hit that subscap and that kidney.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah. Because
it,
that's
it,
where that's what it's always in the kidneys and
yeah, yeah.
upper back for me.
Everything else is there. All the other
Yeah.
stuff is shiny and stuff.
Yeah.
So those are the two things that really, really, really make it challenging for back. Is like I said, it's just one of the hard. It's just the second, first or second, depending. It's next to legs as far as the training workload.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's one of those things you kind of have to learn to love, just like with legs. You got to learn to love legs, training legs. It's not like arms. Most people they like training arms. And there's a couple of rare cases where I've seen people who don't, which I thought was weird. But it happens. But for back, for the most part, it's really hard muscle group to train. But
Yeah.
there's boy, the rewards you get for bringing it up, you can't beat it, man.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. So when you say that it's one of the last muscle groups for most people, everybody's not the same, obviously, but I mean, even me when I first started bodybuilding,
Mm-hmm.
my chest was really the last thing that grew. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, my back I didn't really see too much of, but it wasn't all lumpy. I didn't have all the muscularity
Right.
there.
You had the
You know,
width. You
I
just
had
didn't
the
have
width.
the. And
Yes.
in a lot of cases, that's what you're right. I don't mean to cut you off, but you're right about that. The disparity, you have that back disparity. You
Yeah.
know, a good back is where you got both thickness and width.
Yes.
But saying
Yes.
some backs have great thickness and not a lot of width, and then some backs have great width and not a lot of thickness and detail.
Yeah. So do you think? I mean, really, genetics plays the role in this. But what do you think it could be something to do with because we do carry our fat on our back for one, and maybe just either slows down the process of the muscle building or covers it up, or uh, uh, do you think it might be a mind muscle connection thing, like that bodybuilder just hasn't got into his muscles yet in the back?
No, I think it's more the former. Just the mere fact that you got these big muscle groups. I mean, primarily the lats and the traps, and these are and a lot of people don't realize the traps is far it's more back than it is shoulders.
It
You
is,
know,
yeah, yeah,
it is. And so you got these two big muscles. And it requires, and then you got multiple muscles like the teres majors and the rhomboids and teres minor and all these other muscle group that are right around orbiting these two big muscles and stuff. And then you got the rear delts, and then you got biceps involved. So you're working a lot of muscles when you train the back, which requires just a lot of oxygen because you're working those big muscles, but you're working a lot of other muscles along with it. Because most of back training, except for pullovers, is a compound move, you
Yeah.
know. And so, and it just takes a while. It just takes time. It's like just like training legs, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It just takes time to bring, unless you've already got big legs, it
Yeah.
takes time. And it's the same way with back. They're very, 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 very close.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's like I said, just down the time, you know. Um, I know a lot of people, they claim that they don't get a back pump. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I
And
get
so,
it.
yeah, and so, you know, you can kind of say that there's a little bit of the second portion that you were talking about and stuff.
Okay, okay.
It's just primarily, those big muscles and just being just slow to develop and stuff for a lot of people and stuff. But it doesn't mean they can't develop it. It just means it just takes a while.
Just takes a while. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, I tell you all the time, man. It takes me one exercise for back in my back, and I got to pump my back. It doesn't take me long.
And,
but
and feel fortunate because it's not like that for
and
everybody.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. But my back was one of the first. My lats anyway was one of the first muscle groups that I was able to actually get into. My muscle connection with. My chest was the last one. And then arms were a lot easier. But the back, it was the last body part I think that I actually could get into and while I was lifting and stuff. And then the minute I was doing that, and that's probably why I'm getting the pump, is because I'm really feeling it in the lats when I'm
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
doing pull downs or whatever.
mm-hmm.
So that probably makes more sense. But uh, so okay, so you answered that one question. What I want to talk about is now some exercises
Yeah,
and kind of exercises in the standpoint of a competitive bodybuilder.
right,
Obviously,
right.
this guy, he's going to need to have more width. This guy's might have to have more thickness. So the exercise is going to change depending on what you're trying to do because we're trying to be, we're competitive bodybuilders and we're trying to have perfect symmetry. So it changes, but I don't know if you want to talk about what you do, what we
I'll,
do,
I'll, I'll, I'll jump around a little bit.
but
I'll
yeah.
jump around a
So,
little bit.
so maybe talk about some exercises now.
So yeah, and before we talk about the exercise, just one more. Like I said, from a
Yeah.
standpoint, we got to address two things when it comes to back: width and thickness. Okay,
Mhm.
and when I say thickness, I'm also talking about the detail and all the other stuff. And but but width, and so those two things. And then
Mhm.
you got to ask yourself, okay, so which exercises give me width and which exercises give me thickness? And sometimes it's not as clear cut as you think and stuff. Okay, but because like a lat pull, generally speaking, a lat pull is what you're going to do for your width, generally speaking, pull-ups, lat pull, stuff like that. And then you got your rows, which are going to address, the thickness
Mhm.
part of it. Okay. And then you got to ask yourself, okay, so where am I most lacking? Am I most lacking in width or thickness? So you got to get some feedback on yourself. You got to get some feedback, from other folks and stuff. You got to get what am I going to need here?
Yeah.
And so kind of based on that, okay, that's how you're going to attack your width and your thickness. Okay. If you feel like you need more width, then you're still going to do thickness and stuff, but you're probably going to, and you got good thickness, you're going to do some movements that are going to really, you're going to do more movements that's going to bring out the width more so
Sure.
than the thickness because you've already got the thickness, or vice versa.
Yeah.
If you got a really, 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 thick back, but you don't have a very wide back, then you're going to do those exercises, or you're gonna focus more on that width than you do the thickness. Now, depending on how you want to do that, it just depends on the number of sets and reps that you do. Like
Mhm.
take for instance, let's just stick with let's stick because we do single sets,
Mhm.
you know, and so basically what I would probably do if you're kind of like there, you're kind of even, you know what I mean? Then you want to go like 3 and 3,
3 and 3. Yeah.
you know, 3 exercises for thickness, 3 exercises for width. You get that balance, you know what I mean? Everything gets hit roughly about the same and stuff, and because you don't want, you don't want you want everything to be developed at the same degree of development. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want your thickness to be like from a scale of 1 to 10. You don't want your thickness to be like an 8 and your width to be like a 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything needs to be, pretty close and stuff. You know what I mean? And so but a close grip lat pull, or let's go with a cable row.
Mhm.
Depending on how you place your hands, you can either hit your thickness or your width. If I see someone doing a close grip cable row, and more than likely they're addressing that middle back, which is basically your lat. So they're addressing the width more so than thickness. Now they may be doing a row thinking that and maybe thinking, well, hey, I'm working on thickness, but in that instance, they're actually working a little bit more on width than they
Hmm.
are thickness. Okay.
Okay.
Now, if they take that V bar off and put a straight bar on and give me a pronated grip like a barbell row or something like that, now they're doing the traditional roll to where they're attacking that thickness, that detail, as
Okay.
opposed to the width. So that's what I'm saying. So it's not as cut and dry, because generally speaking, you would say, okay, lat pulls for width, rows for thickness and density,
Sure.
you
Sure.
know, except for in that case. Now,
Yeah.
also a lat pull
Yeah. You
from
do
the
close
front,
grip
a
on
close
lat
grip
pull.
lat pull, yeah. You're thinking lat pulls, you're thinking width, but the closer you get your hands, okay, then you start actually attacking a little bit more of that thickness. It's
Okay.
it's it's just a weird thing there and stuff,
So
so
it
it's
just
not
all has
always
to do
that
with
cut and dry.
they're
I
all
like when I
rows.
if you're doing lat pulls for width, you want to have the hands wide, first of all, first and foremost. Anything to where you're out here, you're good. I don't care whether your hands are inverted or overhand or underhand or something like that. As long as your hands are out here, you're fine.
Yeah.
You start coming in here, then you're still hitting some width. You're not attacking it quite as directly as you would if your hands were wide, but you're
Yeah.
hitting a little bit of both there.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I mean, it's hand placement.
Right, right.
Really, what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It makes all the difference in the world. Another thing for thickness, rack pulls, deadlifts. I mean, some of the, some of the. I remember on NBC Wide Worlds of Sports when they showed the Mr. Olympia, the one that in Johannesburg, and they showed Arnold training and stuff. But I already been training for a few years and stuff, and I just got introduced to deadlifts. I got together with these power lifters and stuff, back in the mid 70s and stuff, and they turned me on to deadlifts. And then I saw Arnold; he was doing partial deadlifts though. He wasn't doing them from the floor. He had these boxes and he was doing deadlifts. The weight was still heavy. I thought, man, he's a weightlifter. But that was that kind of turned me on to really turn me on to deadlifts. And I was like a teenager at the time. I've been doing them ever since. You
Huh.
know, yeah, I've
Did
been
so
doing
you
deadlifts
kind
ever
of
since.
figured out what he was doing with his partials, like what he was, he's a bodybuilder. He's trying to, get out of the legs and get more of the back for that
Right.
movement.
And I also noticed his grip was a little different too and stuff, not like a power lifter. I've been
Yeah.
following some power lifters like Larry Pacifico and stuff like that and stuff. So I knew quite a bit about it and stuff. I dabbled a little bit, but to see Arnold doing deadlifts and stuff, I thought, wow, that's pretty good. And I knew
Huh.
Robbie, he was a big deadlifter too and stuff. So
Huh.
yeah.
That's awesome. What was one thing I do want to ask that I didn't tell you about, but I want to know who you thought had the best back so far.
Wow,
Oh, the
man.
Olympias.
That's boy,
There's a
oh
lot of
man,
them.
that's that I would probably have to say Ronnie Coleman.
That's what I was gonna say for
Back
me,
double,
Ronnie.
and here's the reason why. It wasn't so much his back. He's got a phenomenal back. It's just that supporting cast,
Yeah, yeah,
primarily just below the back, those glutes. I
yeah,
mean, goodness gracious, it was freaking. So back, actually, best to have the best back. He probably doesn't even have the best back, but the thing, it was the combination of his back and his glutes. I can say without a doubt, his back double arm bicep was the best. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
all right. And there are lots of bodybuilders who could match his back to back. I thought Phil Heath could, I thought Jay Cutler could and stuff, Lee Haney and stuff, but the glutes, and all the other stuff that comes with it, that, you know, that's what really, really, really set it apart. And that's one of the things that, and as a competitor, that's one of the things that you'll find with some people is that disparity. You know, you get some people that'll have a really detailed back and everything just fades away on the legs. You know what I mean? Their legs aren't quite as sharp as their back, you know, or just the opposite. Some people are just their hamstrings are just separated, they're just shredded and everything, but their back but you go up, their back just shallows out. They don't have that detail. So you
Yeah.
got that disparity. Now, a person like that is going to need to do a lot of things to help out with the thickness, those pronated rows, you know, and there's a difference between a pronated row and an inverted row, you know. Inverted rows, they tend to hit a little bit more of the lat. They hit the upper back too, but they tend to hit a little bit more of the lat, whereas that pronated row, where that hand is like this versus
Mhm.
this right here, that pronated row, you're going to attack that upper back. You're going to
Yeah.
hit those things. That's why, and sometimes in dumbbell curls, I'll have you go inverted. I mean, I'll have you go pronated instead of inverted, you know, to really attack that upper back and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, it totally does. Especially the high rows and stuff. Well, in the dumbbell inclines that we do. Yeah, you can feel it there. Uh, yeah, awesome. Well, I think that's it for today. Actually, I think we went through all of our questions.
Yeah, sweet.
What? One thing I do want to shed some light on because you got the history is bodybuilding's been changing ever since it started. Some years it's all about conditioning, some years it's about just being as big as possible. When did back really start playing a role? And I mean, back in the day, glutes wasn't really a big thing. Now you
No,
got to have
yeah,
triceps.
glutes were, you know, you know, there's a movie. It had Dave Draper in it. I can't remember. I think it's the one that had Tony Curtis, Dave Draper. You're probably thinking, who the hell is Tony Curtis?
I don't know. I know Dave Draper.
I was just a kid. These were muscle movies, you know. And there was this scene in this old movie where these bodybuilders, they were at this. I guess they were talking. They were and this one guy, he was upset because, you know, he placed lower in a contest because of his glutes, and that's what they said. He says, my glutes, you know. And and the lady, apparently she knew all about this stuff, and she was with Tony Curtis. I can't remember what his character was, and Tony Curtis looking at her like, glutes, where's glutes? She said, his butt, you know. And so that was my first encounter with, you know, glutes, you know,
Yeah.
in bodybuilding and stuff, you know. And so even back then they thought about it, but I don't think it was nearly as important. But now my first Arnold was the first one to actually turn me on to the importance of back training,
Okay.
because for his time, Arnold had a very, very, very good back, you
Yeah.
know. And so this, to me, this was back in the 70s. This was like the about 71, 72, believe it or not. It's when, you know, listen to Arnold talk about back training and stuff. So it was a thing back then. It was the thing that helped him win his Olympias, you
Mhm.
know. So it's that. And then Robbie in the late 70s, Robbie Robinson, just crazy back, you know. And so that's when, you know, in my early teens is when I really started getting into. By the time I was in my late teens, to me, you know, back was the thing,
Hmm.
you
So
know.
so training back in those days, was it always the five body parts basically? Legs, your legs, back, chest, arms, and shoulders. Was that always a thing?
They tended to do multiple muscle groups back then.
Oh, okay.
I didn't start doing that until I started playing with it. I started playing with it like in my mid to late 20s. I still hadn't adopted it yet. I didn't
Okay.
really adopt it until my 30s.
Huh.
I was at the
Okay.
vast majority of my 30s. I was training 5 days a week, one muscle group per day.
Huh.
There was a earlier in my career, I would, you know, I was training 3 days a week. I was using one of Arnold Steel. I was doing legs, and then I was doing chest, shoulders, and triceps, and I was doing back and buys, and, you know, I still do my auxiliary stuff, and yeah, and then I rest the three, you know. But I think like in my mid 20s, I'm thinking, you know, I could put a lot more into a muscle group if I only had to train that muscle group, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, that's what, you know. So I started doing that a little bit, and then they in one of the muscle mags, Dorian, they had a layout of his program and stuff, and come to find out, it was like, wow, he's doing the same thing. He's training one muscle group per day, you know. So that kind of codified it for me and stuff, and I've
Huh.
been doing that ever since.
So back then, a lot of those guys just did like did what, all body parts every day
Yeah,
or something like.
multiple, yeah. It one
Wow,
about two to maybe in some cases three muscle groups.
wow.
Because we were in a transition and stuff, I mean, because back in the 70s and earlier, man, bodybuilders would train for hours, you know. And now what was happening at this point is they weren't training. There were other things, I guess, life just got more complicated, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And you just
yeah.
didn't have the time to do all of that training, especially if you didn't have a contract or something like that and stuff, But the
Sure.
bodybuilders that managed to land contracts and stuff, they still, kind of trained like that. They had the time to do it. So, they
Jeez.
continue to do it. But, the vast majority of us, it's you don't have that kind of time to be training that period that long.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're a successful bodybuilder back then, you're training several hours in a day. That means you're eating, you're recovering, you're eating all your food, you're getting all your sleep. You don't have much time to actually work.
Well, they didn't have to do a lot of cardio back then. No, they didn't do a lot
Yeah,
of cardio back then. They didn't have to.
yeah,
Not if you train like 4 or 5 hours.
yeah, yeah. No, there's no point in that. Yeah, Arnold, well, he ran on the beach all the time, didn't he? On the in Venice or something like that. He would run on the beach in the sand.
Well, they trained for a very long time. I
That's
mean,
crazy.
it was like a work day, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would they work out 5 days, or would they train really hard for one day, do like a
And
day on, day off?
they skip they do two muscle groups like the one of the favorite splits was legs, chest, shoulders, back, and arms, and then you would split shoulders. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah, because traps would go with back training,
Yeah.
and the and deltoids would go with your shoulder presses and your lateral raises and stuff like that. Yeah,
Huh. Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, yeah. I
All
remember.
right, man. Well, I think that's all we got for tonight. Next week we're gonna roll out with another muscle group, and you guys,
I said we
you
gotta
want,
go. It's got to be legs.
yeah, you want to do legs next week? That's what we're
Those are the
doing, man.
big three.
Yeah.
Shoulders. We already got the shoulders.
Well, you're
And
right
then we
because
got
you
the
said
taper.
from the top to the top
Yes, from the
bottom.
top.
Yeah.
You got the taper. Now you pose from the bottom up,
Yeah.
but yeah, you're training from the
Yes.
top
Yes.
down.
So
And legs is the one. One of the things I will say about leg, there isn't a Mr. Olympia that was notoriously noted for their legs.
really,
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, their legs didn't take away from their physique, but it
yeah.
didn't necessarily enhance their physique. You know what I mean? I mean,
That's funny you say that because I hear and they were talking about your legs when you're on stage. Uh,
but let me see. How do I want to put that?
no, I know what you mean because it's just like we're talking who's got the best back. I've never really heard who had the best legs uh in the
But
sport.
don't get me wrong. You got to have wheels,
Yeah,
to be a Mr. Olympia. You got to have wheels,
yeah,
but it's not like their wheels just stood apart from everybody else's.
yeah,
You had Mr. Olympias whose back have stood apart from everyone else's. But I can't recall an Olympia whose legs stood out from everyone else's.
that's
You know
interesting.
what I mean?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Ronnie's, they were
Definitely not
freakishly
Arnold.
huge.
I believe Arnold was not known for his legs. As people still try to attack him through his legs.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
that was his last Olympia, and the one in said now the 1974 Arnold that was a that he I don't know where he got those wheels from.
Yeah.
Boy, he was crazy back then. They actually held him back a little bit,
Think
because I know
so?
in Pumping Iron they did not want him to get that 1974 look where as a matter of fact, nobody really showed up. I think Lou Ferrigno showed up for that Olympia, and he competed against Ferrigno and stuff.
Mhm.
Ferrigno was just a young kid at the time, and he was like, "Oh, I'll do it," but nobody else wanted to do it.
Huh.
But to me, I thought that was Arnold's best look at that point.
1974, huh? I'll have to
Yeah,
look that up on my phone. Why?
yeah. Look at that 74 Arnold. Look at the one where he won his very last Olympia. I thought he looked the worst there, but the one before that though, the sixth one, you
Mhm.
know, his condition was good, but he was nothing like the 74. Of course, they were getting ready for a movie, Pumping Iron, and the people, the director and everything, they just did not want. They didn't think that. I guess the population was ready for that type of bodybuilder and stuff.
Yeah, because then they're
So
trying to appeal to the public. Like,
right,
here's,
and that's what they were doing. And
yeah,
they said no, we don't want that look. But that's the look I wanted to see though.
yeah.
That was
But I get what they're saying though. I mean, because back then, I mean, bodybuilding, there's bodybuilders around, but they were kind of scary and big and not
tell me about it.
normal.
I
They're
know
freaks.
all about it. I know all about it firsthand.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
we're gonna talk legs and then we'll go to
We're
chest
gonna
today.
throw glutes in with the legs too. Is that what we'll do?
Yeah, lower body, just
Yep.
lower body,
Sounds good, man.
lower
Sounds
body.
good.
Yes, absolutely.
All
That's
right, you
gonna be
guys have a
fun.
good night, and we will see you next week. Good night, Donnie.
All right, man.